I asked him in the interview, I said, because I played Riff Raff 154 times. And I said, who was I? Who was my father? Like, how did I get there? Mainly, I said, who was Riff Raff? He goes, he was a military officer, which is kind of
Riff
interesting because of how
raff.
it is, how it ends. He's a military officer who reins in the bad guy. And I said, well, that explains why when I hear him, I think of Donald Trump, someone that comes out and says, enough. And that's Brian
Had
Karem.
enough. This is it. I'm the best.
Brian Karem, you're great, man. So
Pleasure to be
I,
here.
I, I, likewise, I always want to make sure we have a state of the media, consciousness discussion for our friends. And especially like with the Scott Pelley firing back and the kind of hoopla going at 60 Minutes. Um, it's great to bring on the guy who's basically the professor of how this shit flows. So, what's up, man? Where are we at?
Oh, we're just dodging bullets, brother, literally and
Right.
figuratively. If you're looking for the state of the press, I'd tell you it's a state of disarray. I don't think that we have much of it. I have some hope. I've seen some pushback even from the Washington Post after they were taken over and kind of ruined by their current owner, Jeff Bezos.
Right, right.
But they've been pushing back a little against Donald. I still don't think many people understand exactly how to promote and use a free press, but at least I still have hope because there are still people out there trying to do their job. So as long as we got that going, we'll be all right.
And where is the strongest current pushback found? Is it in the online print world? Is it in the kind of podcasty world? Certainly not near the Oval Office, but
Well,
where is it happening?
there are a few people in that are covering
Oh,
it from a press pool that are trying to do their job
good
correctly,
job.
and they are pushing back. Online is a great voice. It's a voice that should be listened to more by those of us still in the corporate media world and what they, call the mainstream press. We should be listening more to it. But
Right,
real journalism is a team effort. It's not, when you send a reporter out in the field, you send them usually with a photographer. If it's television, you're sending them with a producer, a sound guy. You've got editors back in the office who are sitting on someone's shoulder going, "Where'd you get that quote from? How do you know that's a fact? Don't take
right.
your opinion out of this piece." Those things are important, and sometimes they're lacking online, and that's because of a lack of funds. And don't forget this, the online world, all right, so the mainstream or corporate media is run by about 4 or 5 companies, and they they have a control, a stranglehold over 90% of what you see, read, or hear in the mainstream world. But online is also only controlled by 3 or 4 streamers, so there's a
No,
chokehold there too. So can and with and it's more insidious because you know who's responsible for producing the stuff at CBS, even if you hate it, but you don't always understand that online, and it's hard to see sometimes, the fact that those people that host, the streams and host the stuff online are in essence making boatloads of money off of algorithms, and you can't see their bias as easily. So it online is a great, great tool, but it's not a replacement for, nor should it be considered a replacement for traditional media. It should be something that the traditional media uses to enhance their product and something that independent producers can use to get the word out there that they're not able to otherwise. But to call it,
precisely.
yeah, to equate it to journalism, I don't think you can call yourself a journalist until you have an editor. And I'll be honest with you,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
when I was first coming up in the world of reporting, a journalist was an out of work reporter. So
Right,
there's a
right,
lot of
right.
I guess there's a lot of journalists online.
And again, because sometimes we have a different audience. Renee Feltz, who was a KPFT editor, taught me quickly by how she would tear the copy apart. She said a lot of it stacked very well. in the end, but she was this
Yeah,
good copy militant, and it made it harder, but in a good way. The way you go back to the gym and you refine your farm, and you come back with something
exactly.
better. You know.
The best editors make for the best reporters. By the way, I dig the T-shirt. I've got a French bulldog with blue eyes.
Yes, exactly, exactly. I have to
I
figure
feel
out how
like
to
I'm
get some of these
staring at my
back over to
dog.
America because everyone really likes these and the cats, but I like the
Yeah,
bulldog.
yeah. Well, I got
Um,
one that looks just like that, and I feel like my dog's staring at me as I'm talking.
exactly. And one of the things with the difference in the way press operates here and I watch in America is very frustrating because here they don't. Well, a lot of them won't take any bullshit, and they're seen from Western supporters as why are they so antagonistic towards leadership? And I just kinda nod, I go, "Exactly."
That's the
Why are they
job.
so antagonistic towards leadership? Because they're asking questions that have to be asked. Now, we can look at this model, and I'm talking to someone who doesn't do journalism. And, but they're good people trying to figure out how to get the world better, and when they hear it that way, they say, "Ah, I got it." Then I had to tell them the background. With this one, someone's editor was shot, trying to cover power back, 20 plus years ago, and they didn't forget that. And they said, "Well, here's how we're gonna do it. We're gonna keep asking the questions even harder now."
Yeah, hey, that's I call my podcast "Just Ask a Question" because it it was Helen Thomas, my first day in the White House room, who said, "Brian, it doesn't matter what the question is, it doesn't matter how you ask it, it only matters the answer is the only thing that matters. So, just ask the damn question." And put them on the record. That way, when you ask the question, they cannot deny that the issue has been brought up to them. It's on the record. So,
Yeah.
yes, you have to be as hardcore and I'm not advocating, it was Sam Donaldson, one of my other mentors, who said, "I'm not advocating rudeness, but I'm more concerned about reporters who are too scared to ask a question." The fact of the matter is, ask the damn question. And if you're antagonistic to them, that's your job. If they think you're rude, they're just trying to deflect from the fact that they don't wanna answer the damn question.
Exactly, and that's all Congress has right now.
Yes.
When I was in a pissy mode, so when I would cover terrorism segments as the expert guy, me answer questioning, um, a few friends would catch on that there was an Easter egg contest going on over my shoulder, with the books on my shelf, and they caught, Mr. President, what was I forget what the title for Sam Donaldson's book for Reagan, but,
Oh,
it was
well, I have, uh,
I have a question, Mr. President, I believe.
no.
It's not here in Ukraine with me.
Hold on, Mr. President.
That's the one. That's the
Yeah.
book. So there's a segment on Canadian television of me covering one of the American terrorism segments, and over my shoulder would sometimes be McCain or Joe Wilson or that. Excellent book, and of course you have that book.
Yeah, well, I have to tell you, this book is more valuable to me than a Pulitzer Prize because Sam wrote into it, and there it is for those who wanna see it. He
I know.
wrote into
I
the
have the same feeling.
Oh,
I
God bless.
understand, and so for everyone who's watching, I totally understand.
That's it says, "To Brian, you are the best White House reporter in our business today. Keep it up, Sam." So that meant more to me, still means more to me than a Pulitzer.
I
And,
completely agree.
he just a great mentor, a great guy. Him and Helen taught me a lot, and I never forget it every day.
Um, so you were on to something I really wanted to talk about with you, especially you nailed it. Instead of bitching about algorithms, I really want to step back and say, here's what it does for people to understand. Here's what it does for journalism. If the algorithm is designed to feed anger, and we do know quality educational foundations have put the research into what, at least with X and Facebook, have been doing. What does that mean now? And the article I'll put out in a few days, I start with, would the Arab Spring have ever happened if not for the status it was 15 years ago? So,
Well
or events like that.
well, so I guess your question is how does the algorithm affect journalism? And
Correct.
and so the answer is it feeds into division instead of information. So the more it feeds people into their informational silos where they can get angry at the same things and they feel comfortable in that area where they have similar concerns and similar anger and similar desires. And instead of informing, it only inflames. But that's because that's how you make money. That's
Right,
they
exactly.
figured out to get people engaged, you have to really piss them off or, make them very happy. And people are always suspicious of the happiness because, well, what are they trying to sell me? But when you make them angry, they're not nearly as suspicious of the fact that you are, in fact, usually trying to sell them something. And so that's why they use that. Anger is a powerful tool to use when you want to make money.
I used the metaphor the other day. Tell me if you agree with this. I said that information ingestion by our general good populace. I'm just going to stick to the people who want the best, right? Um, that once the belly's full and good information arrives, there's no room for it. And so, therefore, being conscious of how we're getting what is good information from the get go is a must.
Yeah, well, I say the same. You have to be a critical thinker. So it's you do have to search these days for sources that are vetted that you can trust and follow. And my recommendations for people when they say, "Well, what do you mean by that?" is read the copy or listen to the reporter or
Mm,
watch the video. Does it seem to be driving a narrative or does it seem to be asking questions and seeking answers?
right.
Um, and that's it, both the left and the right are guilty of this. And I will say that it's very hard to discern. For example, if someone comes out and says, "Well, it's obvious from what we're seeing that, X, Y, and Z is happening." Well, why is it
Mhm.
obvious? Are you an eyewitness to it? Is it obvious because that's what you've been told? Or is it obvious because I can see? And people also have to understand that though you can see it on video, that's still not reality. You're still at least a step removed. I've had
Mhm.
people, get upset and go, "Well, I saw that briefing in the Brady briefing room and X, Y, and Z occurred." And I'm going, "I was in the Brady briefing room and that's not what occurred. You saw part of what occurred." It's the same as when
Yeah,
people tell me that the January 6th insurrection, which I had the unfortunate
that's
opportunity
right.
to attend and experience firsthand, was not 3 hours of people just walking around holding hands singing Kumbaya. I mean, that's edited video to make it look like that, and as I have told people on many occasions, that's no different than, an editor putting together a bunch of videotape watching you're watching the Manson family walk around and it looks
Right.
like they're having a picnic before they killed, and went on a mass, tear. So, no, it's not reality, it's edited. It's often even if it's live, you're getting a camera view of what? While I'm in the room seeing the subtleties that you cannot see. So when sometimes the camera isn't even on the person speaking. Maybe it's on a
Right.
cutaway shot and you hear the speaker go, "No, that's crazy." And you go, "Oh my God, they just said this and this and this, and oh, they mean this." And I'm in the room and I can tell you they're saying it tongue in cheek. Nuance is everything. You have to understand that. And so one of the benefits that government has by calling us fake news or the enemy of the people is that you erode trust in those people who are in the room, eyewitnesses to events, and are trying to relay what's actually going on to you. We're not fake news. We're not the enemy of the people. We are the people. And we don't have enough people speaking out against the morons in government who are telling us that we're the problem when they are.
Amen, brother. And it's one of the reasons why, again, to our viewers, I brought this to war. I'm Chris Sampson in Kyiv. Been here since January 2022. This was in the bag on the way in. It stays with me
God bless you.
always. Um, and there's an interesting on ramp to that. And we'll stay where you're at because we're having Mark Zaid on tomorrow. Um, I
Brother
worked
Mark.
as yeah, Mark is a most amazing friend and awesome super lawyer. And I was working as a civilian counterterrorism researcher, guys, and way into the digital gear. So I have even on my shelf right near somewhere around here, I have hard drives of all the Oath Keepers stuff from their servers, and authentic source stuff. That's what I did. So they want to act like I didn't see that happen. I was on MSNBC September 8th, 2020 with Frank Figliuzzi saying, here's what's coming. And it did. So they want to say it didn't happen to you who were there, me who was researching, Frank who was on television, Harry and Sergeant Gannell who were getting hit, and Danny Hodges, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But the press really doesn't push back. It's mollified. It just repeats. CNN's useless. MSNBC or MS Now, useless.
Well, they don't
They
have many original voices on anymore. I get tired of seeing Scott Jennings on CNN. He's
oh,
useless. But, to your
how,
point,
what? How does he? Go ahead. Go ahead.
yeah, no, no, I what you got?
How
Hitting.
how does he operate in the sphere, for our viewers? How does he operate? What is his is he like a foil in some way? What's his purpose?
His purpose is to listen to what MAGA would tell you. I mean, he's the MAGA mouthpiece. That's the whole reason why
For
he's there.
CNN throwing dollars down, why is Scott Jennings a thing?
Ratings.
Yeah, yeah. Just a ping it's a silly, throw shit ping pong match, something?
Yeah, well,
Some people just love
I
it?
mean, he's not the brightest, or sharpest tool in the
Ugh,
shed, and what can I tell you? And he's from my hometown. But I will
yeah,
say this, one of the things that people do when they listen they keep with like I said, within their own bubble. So
right, right,
if you're in CNN and you're listening to Scott Jennings, you go, "Oh, they're telling me both sides of the story. At least I'm getting the moron from the bubble,
right, right,
from the MAGA world." And that's not necessarily true either. We have had a very difficult time not only explaining to people what's going on, but then again, the nuance of MAGA. I mean, how can you say that MAGA is still MAGA when Marjorie Taylor Greene, who cut her eye teeth in MAGA, has said that Donald Trump is, and there are plenty of MAGA people that no longer like Donald Trump because of two things. One, he
right.
lied about releasing the information in the Epstein files. And number two, he's gotten us involved in a war that he started now that he's claimed that he's won. But I mean, I'll
Oh,
go back
Lord.
to, yeah, I'll go back to
Of course.
you're in you're in Kyiv right now, right? So
Right,
I was in Lviv and on the road to Kyiv during the beginning of this war, and I remember listening to people going, it could be over with any day now, blah 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 blah, and I'm going, I'm sitting in a restaurant and having my morning coffee. And I can tell you, after interviewing just 100 or so people in the few days that I was there was no way in hell it was going to be over with in a couple of days.
right.
There's you could when you've got little old ladies walking around going, "Look, this is our land. We live above it, and you can live below it." I'm going,
Mixing
I don't.
Molotov cocktails.
Yeah, and handing them off to Russian soldiers. Here, honey, it's not exactly going to go the way, but I remember doing a piece, and I was up live, and they're going, "Well, at any moment, this could be the end of Ukraine." I'm going, "Where? What the hell are you talking about?" It's getting the information out is so hard when, as you said, we just seem to be repeating things instead of actually investigating and asking the hard questions. That's the thing that bothers me the most about reporting today. If you look at the Brady briefing room at the White House, if you listen to the questions that are asked of the president and others,
Mhm, mhm.
they're often not incisive questions. What they often are questions that reiterate what has already been said. We're, at best reduced to the role of a stenographer, at worst, and
What I
there
call
aren't
them.
many of those who are propagandists.
Yeah, I've been bold to tell them all the time, you're being just a stenographer, we don't need that." I wanna use an example locally for the viewers here that may not know this, and it helps you've been around this, spotlight fallacy issue. The Zelensky's rounding people up off the street issue. Um, I live here in Kyiv. I've been here the entire time. I travel around the country and other places as well, but this is home base. And I've actually had days where videos that surface on the internet as, "Look what happened today," within a span of no more than 2-hour window from the same guys that I just been passing, who are talking to everybody in regular civic mode. And when a conflict finally breaks out and it gets captured, oh my God, look at the tyranny of things. Then had a ton of guys who are in service mode who come off the front and they have to be in the back line in civvies, and they're tired, they're grouchy. Whoever's doing their job is coming along and saying, "Hey, do you have your man? Leave me the hell alone," you know. And it turns into conflict. It gets filmed, and look again, the dictator's in motion. Even though, especially in two modes, guys that were filmed said, "Well, it wasn't anything like someone spun it." You know, there are people who are evading what's going on as well in the war to defend, and start fights once someone comes to ask them, "Hey, what the hell's happening?" That gets filmed, and look, but all the other stuff doesn't. And if you don't have someone on the ground like me who's been around it enough to say, "Look, there's a context to all that shit, please," it gets spun a lot, and there's a whole bunch of variations of it over the last 4 years that when been told something didn't happen from Bucha, I was in 9 days after the ridding of the Russians. Izum, I was in basically the 26th of September, so you have to do the time span of a couple weeks. Same thing. You can't lie to my cameras, my own personal experience, my writing, my contemporary posting, and when I go on radio in America, there are less and less of these voices, but there are people who say the most insane things from a distance about people they've never heard,
or
experiences they've never understood.
yeah,
They don't even bother to
experiences they
understand.
never had. That's
Right, right.
I cannot tell you them. I get tired of Mike Johnson. I've called him out a couple of times, who sits there and says, January 6th was nothing but a, kumbaya peace movement. You're a liar. I was there.
Mm,
Don't tell me what happened I was there when the bombs were dropping. I don't tell me what happened.
exactly.
I'm an eyewitness. There is nothing. I will never listen to people who say, "Don't, who are you going to believe, me or your lying eyes?" Well, I'm not going to believe you. I'm going to believe my lying eyes because I saw it myself. That's the central job of a reporter. You're the eyewitness. You turn around and tell people what occurred. That's exactly what we need today. That we don't need people sitting on the sideline on CNN or Fox or any other damn network sitting there telling me what they think when they don't have a clue as to what it is that I know. And I'm tired. I mean, I quit doing a lot of those shows just because I got tired of talking to people like Scott Jennings who didn't know what the fuck they're talking about. I can't stand. I don't care how much money you're offer me to sit down and pontificate. I can't
Right,
do it if I haven't been there. "Brian, we're gonna talk about this in this segment." "Well, I don't know anything about that." "Well,
right,
you have an opinion, just wing it." "Well, what the hell do you care about my opinion about something I know nothing about?" You just wanna create an argument on TV to sell your, 30-second ads. That's it. You need the audience there. I'm freaking tired of that crap. I'm absolutely tired of it. I can't stomach it. I won't be a part of it. So, if I get invited to be on a show, the first thing I ask is, "What are we talking about? And why are you having me on?" And if you're having me on just to further an argument, I wanna know who else is on, as to whether or not I take them seriously. I don't wanna get on a show with Scott Jennings or, for that matter, Mike Johnson. If they wanna talk about the war in Ukraine, or if they wanna you know what? I've been there, done that, got the T-shirt. I'll
right.
talk to you about what I know. I'm not gonna argue with those morons just because I disagree with them either, because it's not worth my time or investment to tell a moron they're a moron.
Well,
I
always
just
have at least one manipulation, which is I always want people to get good material to read.
God
Uh,
bless you, man.
but I do tell my friends. We had my friend Tom Much on the other night. I have an attitude problem about the press, and I have an attitude problem about the press because I saw good press at different times in my life, and I saw junk press around it, stifling it, choking it, killing it. keeping the people's bellies full when the other stuff needed to be on the table. And now lives are at risk here, lives are at risk in America, and we need it more than ever. So, one thing I'd always want to keep on the table with your wisdom is that younger press corps or the citizen journalist who's trying to get good at right, what they got to keep in mind in this big chaos of like cognitive warfare that's always a daily occurrence now at a volume super huge because you've seen a few generations of bullshit.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's a nice way of saying I'm an old fuck, but yeah, I'll say that to a young reporter, I tell him, and this is a guidance I give everyone, firsthand information is the best. If you
Mhm.
see it, if you're a eyewitness to it. The second best information to me has always been what's in the public record, what can I get out that's in, do I have, a letter that they can't deny exists? Is there paperwork? Paperwork is essential for some information. And then, of course, interviewing people who were there and are in the know. And you got to verify that through more than one source. If you can verify it by 2 sources that'll go on the record, that's stellar. Those are the primary sources that you need besides being an eyewitness. Then your secondary sources are those who and you need to know because when you're interviewing someone, it's like, "Well, that guy he was running down the street and got shot in the back of the head. Did you see it?"
Mhm.
"No, that's what my friend said." Well, okay, so you're not an eyewitness, you're not a primary source, you're at best a secondary source, you may be a tertiary source, third or fourth hand removed. You don't know until you ask the further questions. So that goes back to Helen. Always ask the question, ask it of everyone. Seek the information, track it down, find out, and don't take it for granted that something is a fact, even if someone says that it is a fact. You know, well, I talked to so and so and they said this. How did you verify it? You talked to them. When did you talk to them? Before or after I talked to you? Before or after the incident? When after the incident? 30 seconds after the incident? An hour after the incident? A week? A year? When did when did your part of being involved in the story start? Timelines
Right.
are essential. When I'm sitting in the White House Brady briefing room and for example, JD Vance will come out and say, "This deal with, Iran is better than" this one I love, he just did yesterday. "The deal in Iran, we've made a better deal with Iran than, Obama because he put $1.7 billion in
Right.
an airplane and flew it to Iran." Donald Trump even claims that he saw that happen. That's a lie. It never happened. W The Obama government released up to, I think it was $50 billion in seized assets that didn't give them any money. Now Donald Trump is promising and we did have and this one I love from JD Vance. So now let's talk about the inspectors. They barely had inspectors when Obama was in office. They barely had them. Well, that means they did have them, right? You're confirming that they did have them, and you're saying, and that's something that we're negotiating. We'll have better. Well, you don't have them. Your agreement doesn't have them. You have to listen to the words. You have to understand what they're saying, and you have to call them accountable on it. So JD Vance is admitting that Obama had international inspectors on the ground making sure that Iran didn't
Yeah.
enhance uranium past a certain point, and he's saying that they have made a deal for 300 billion versus 50 billion. So it's going to cost America 6 times what it cost them with Obama, and we have no guarantee of inspectors. You listen to what they say and you understand they're full of shit. You have to be able to
Hmm.
understand the language, parse what they're saying, and ask them pointed questions about it. And that takes, a lot of people don't wanna that's why we're there. That's the
Right.
whole point of being a reporter. You get to go about your daily business, and we're the ones
Yeah.
that'll ask the questions and give you the factual information. And when we sacrifice that to just argue about bullshit, we're no better off than they are. We're part of the problem
Well,
too,
the
so
water cooler politics of press has been a problem forever. How does that still affect the professional class, if you will? I mean, I don't have my press badge on my pocket, which is no, no. I'm sorry, I lied through my ass because I always have my press badge in my pocket.
I always have
Um,
mine.
Amen. But there are people who the press badge is as good as their access, right? And they know that there's water cooler politics. How much of that is actual corruption, and how much of that is business?
Well, when you say water, what do you mean by water cooler politics, I guess, or
So
water
the way
cooler?
in which, like Judith Miller and Scooter Libby, and
Their
how
access to people that enabled her to present certain, facts.
a, a
That
range of people who operate at that level that the rest of us, from my view at least, seems unethical, and
well, if you're looking for ethics in
yeah,
Washington, you're more easily to find a
of course,
dog than a stray dog, but, access is unfortunately part of it, and I can
sure,
people will say, "How can you get a story in Washington, DC?" And I always tell them, "Well, let me go out for dinner with a couple of sources, I'll get back to you." It's not that hard to get information in DC. Everyone thinks of themselves as a player. Everyone wants to speak under the right impetus, and they all wanna feel important, like they're part of the power structure. So, that that becomes, that's part of the culture. You want a
sure.
story? Let's go out to dinner and talk. Yeah, you don't have to be bribed. I'll sit down, have a couple of drinks with you, and you'll start telling me why you're important, what I really should know. I get that on a daily basis. I quit
Sure.
going to dinners and going out to drink for that reason, just because I don't give a shit about how important they think they are.
So
But
love
they'll talk
about
to
you.
you all yeah, they'll talk to you off the record, they'll talk to you for background, and then, of course, there are the reporters, I mean, I've seen this happen, and God, it was part of uh, I think it was in a movie, broadcast news, but I actually watched this
Hmm.
happen a couple of times where there'll be reporters in the break room at the White House, in the Brady briefing room break room in the back, and one of them will go, "I think this happened." The other will go, "Yeah, I think that happened too." And then the third one will go on the air and quote, "Sources close to the White House say," and I go, "Well, technically we were close to the White House, because we were in the Brady briefing room. We actually were in the White House, but,
Right.
you know, is it factual or is it just conjecture?" A lot of reporters will use off the record and on background sources as the same thing that the administration uses them for, and that's to float trial balloons. And some of that's
Right.
legitimate and some of it isn't. You have to be, as a reporter, cognizant enough of the beat you cover and the sources that you have to understand what is a trial balloon and what isn't. And I will give everyone this hint. When it comes to Donald Trump, everything is a trial balloon. If he says it and you go, "Oh my God, that's insane. He would never do it." Yes, he would. He's just
Right.
waiting to see if he can get away with it. This is a trial balloon, push back.
Uh, okay, so can I play magic headline with you and
Sure.
see where we go with this?
Magic
Okay,
headline.
magic headline. So, breaking news on New York Times: Brian Karem is given the entirety of CNN to rebuild as he sees as perfect. What's gone from the homepage of CNN.com?
Well, first of all, if I'm, going to run CNN, I'm gonna invest money in investigative reporting. That would be my first, outlay for his expenses. It is expensive. I would do it. I would then assign people beats, and I would make sure that they are beat reporters first. They understand what their beat is, and they find factual information. What's gone off the home is the bullshit. I would take all the conjecture, all the speculation, all the things that make them popular that people love, and institute a system by which we are delivering vetted factual information to the viewing public. Now, that that's why I will probably never be head of CNN because that does not maximize profits. I do believe
Sure.
that there is room for this. I do believe that it can be profitable. Will it be maximum profitable in the short term? No. It's gonna be sustainable through a lifetime. It's gonna be something that will allow people and that's how you build your audience. It's very easy to lose credibility. It's very hard to maintain credibility.
Well, when
So,
I see
it's gotta be
certain, yeah.
scrupulously. No, go ahead.
Well, when I
When
see
you
certain
see cer
headlines on one of those leading news outlets, famous actor from famous movie series has died something or some story. I am gonna click to see well who was it, and then I have to look. Oh, flew an X-wing in Star Wars something for about a second. Oh, what?
Yeah, that's
Okay, and I go back to
but
like Haiti just had, like at least Haiti, Scotland, my guys, defeated Haiti at the World Cup. Okay, that's at least a little bit more useful. But the journalist in me goes, how much did that journalist get paid instead of a good story that would have helped people understand something useful in this time of chaos? That's where I'm at it with
well,
everything.
I just like I'll go back to what I like is legendary actress dies, age 78, starred in Star Wars, and you look it up and it goes, "3rd Jedi Knight from the rear on the 4th episode of it." I'm going, "Holy shit." That's but it's hey,
Thank
I
you
didn't
for
know
your
they were
contribution.
legendary.
Yeah,
That's
right. Thank you for
I was in the
our
background in this I was in the back my kids and my, uh, uh, are very come on, that's I I I some of that look, people like to read what they like to read, and that's
sure,
cool. I mean, you wanna read about sports, go for it. If you wanna read about, celebrity, go for it. That's why you have those beats covered. But if you're gonna cover politics, if you're gonna cover breaking news, if you're gonna cover, anything in a serious news realm, I
right.
think that that's gotta be relegated to factual information that has been vetted several times so we know that it is a fact. You can gesticulate and guess all you want about, oh, the celebrity, and that's fine. You wanna everybody needs a little cotton candy to go with their meat, so I don't mind that.
Sure.
But at the end of the day, when it comes to the meat and potatoes part of it, you gotta do it right. Does
Yeah,
that
I
make
mean,
sense?
yeah, no, it's a place that it fits, and actually, sometimes I tell consumers if you don't like it, don't buy it.
Yeah,
Find
no.
something else to
Well,
do with
that's
it.
what I told, Huckabee Sanders, and, when we were in the briefing room during the first administration, and she called us all fake news, and, and then she promoted an actual bit of fake news for us to
Right.
look at. I said, "Listen, man, we don't have a choice with you people. You have a choice with us. If you don't like what we're putting out there, you can turn the channel or you can pick up another newspaper. But you're the source that we're counting on. So you have a responsibility to stop bullshitting us." And
Mhm.
of course, that became a very infamous, a row that we had in the briefing room. But I'm sick of that crap too. You want to shoot the messenger for what we do when it's you that is the source of the misinformation? No, let's call it what it is. We made megaphone the disinformation. They started it and they're responsible for it, and we need to hold them accountable for it. And that's what we don't do real well, is hold them accountable for their own bullshit.
Final thought, Lisa, and unless you have a couple. Oh, actually, we brought up Mark Zaid. What is the case that's on the table that relates to you guys? If you
Oh,
have it on the table,
we're well,
go
we
for it.
we all joined a UFO cult. No, the
I know that. I don't
the
mean that. I got my tickets too. I
yeah,
worked
that's
for I worked for Bernie Worrell. I've been on the mothership for a long time, homie.
The Havana syndrome, or analogous,
Right.
it's AHI's analogous health incidents that began in Cuba have been traced to,
Not
in
yeah,
fact,
right.
yeah, there are direct energy weapons that have been used. It's confirmed. It's a thing that I've been asking questions about for years, and Mark has certainly led the litigation efforts to bring forth the information about them. It's frightening in its scope, actually, as to how small, compact they can be, and how they have affected people, and how they
Mhm.
continue to be used. And the history of it is long and goes back to the Cold War, and
Right.
and those analogous health incidents, that and drone warfare are the future of warfare, and you're seeing that play out on a daily basis
I'm
in
ridiculously
in
good at the
Ukraine.
understanding of drone warfare at this point, which wasn't on my menu, but here it is. Yes. But I think we're talking about the unit, so it's the GRU unit, 29155. is the one most associated with this hybrid warfare. And yeah, it's a big story. And what's your how is it tying into you, just for our viewers?
Oh, well, I've done some investigative work in trying to, uncover the use, done some
Yeah.
reporting on it for, Salon, Playboy, and others. So it's, a continuing issue and won't be I mean, to me, it's frightening that you could walk around with something that's, I mean, if I have alright,
That time.
this is an old this is an antique. This is a Brownie camera, right?
Oh yeah, yeah,
This is
very
what
much
we
so.
used to take pictures with.
Right.
Something this size or slightly larger could be used, focus energy, microwave energy usually, and create havoc inside the human body. So, yeah, it's a serious issue, and it's easily broken down, very, easy to hide and very easy to use. So that continues to be a huge issue that, I don't think, and one of the reasons why we don't wanna deal with it is because we're at the forefront of developing it in the United States, and we kinda don't wanna let people know that we have it or how prevalent it is in use. It is
Now,
terrifying.
yeah, and because I started our program tonight talking about the gutting of 60 Minutes, I know two major segments were done on 60 Minutes on you know you know 2 different consecutive years, I believe. But that's it. There's not a lot of coverage of this in the press at all.
Of
What do you have?
AHIs? No.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
It it and we don't know how it's been used in the military. There, of
Mhm.
course, were hints and allegations, and now I'm quoting Paul Simon. If you want to be my bodyguard, I'll be your long lost pal. But if but there have been hints and incidents and allegations that it was used in Venezuela, that it's been used in Iran, that is
Mm.
part of the battlefield with the United States, directed energy and focus energy weapons. So I think that they're loath, and I know Tulsi Gabbard has said she's going to release a lot of information on her way out the door. Mazel tov, do it. Uh, we'll see. That's, but
Did you catch my article the other day about biolabs on her? I did a twofer on her. And I keep telling my viewers, it doesn't I have some articles that are easier, like Laura Loomer or her, because I know their resume really well. But the biolabs thing, like, really, you use the ODNI official website to throw Kremlin bullshit at the people. Tulsi,
Yeah. Yeah, well, she's compromised, but, there I saw a question here about whether these directed energy weapons have been used in America, and yes, there is allegations they were used in America, and that's one of the things they certainly don't want to let out, but that's one of the things that has been alleged. So, yeah, it's frightening, but t k tr I don't trust Tulsi Gabbard any farther than I can throw her, and, my pitching arm isn't what it used to be, so that doesn't extend very far these days.
I find it hard to believe you nail it whenever your videos are awesome. I wake up, it's sort of like a different version of espresso when I'm getting my work done.
Well espresso everybody needs, a good covfefe in the morning and
Dad, a dead Russian general, nothing gets me happier. I had BBC asked me December 20th, 2024, I got a phone call at 8:40 in the morning. Could I come on to talk about a dead Russian general? And I said, it said, TV, is it television or radio? It's radio, no problem. Because then I didn't have to worry about
Yeah.
getting visual. Just walked in, threw water on my whole body. So I just combed my hair back, sat down, put the thing on, and she goes, "Did you get your coffee?" 5 minutes in, she goes, "Did you get your coffee?" I said, "A dead Russian general is espresso. Let's go." And they laughed
Well,
so hard.
it is the sweet elixir of life. That's
Yeah. Let me
caffeine
ask
is
you from a press point of view, critique me on this, because now I'm in commentator mode, remember, at that moment. I'm not on
yeah,
as I mean, it's clear I'm in as
we
commentator.
all are. Yeah.
So, so the guy at BBC said, I said, "It's an accountability program." And he said, "Huh?" I said, "Well, look, your government charged this guy, with, chemical weapons use October 8th, 2024, and, sanctioned, etcetera. And then the SSU here charged him, day before yesterday, essentially. oh, well, did they try to get him into court? I said, well, I don't know if you recognize there really isn't one. You could you could have heard the
Well, that reminds me. Okay, so I'm in Waco covering the
I'm
Waco
winging
tragedy.
it, bro. But I have to admit, Brian, I'm winging it. But I think I got
That's
it right.
so well, you're right. Sometimes those type of answers are the best. As I said, I was remember being live with, I think it was the BBC, and I was doing a piece on. I was live at the Waco tragedy.
Yeah.
The David Koresh stuff, and this
I
is like
remember
the
that. I was in the back with my friends when we were about 20.
yeah. That's I was there, and so I'm doing a live shot. And this is like third or fourth day of the situation, and the anchor came on and goes, Brian, I hear there are a lot of cults in the United States like this. Are they all as heavily armed as this one? And I just looked around. I go, well, I certainly hope not. And he goes, oh, that cheeky American humor. I'm going, well, what else am I going to say?
Right, right. Oh my God. Yeah, I did get it at I oh, additionally I said that I didn't understand the difference between al-Baghdadi's head on a platter and Vladimir Putin's head on a platter. And the producer at the end said, "This is why we like to talk to you sometimes." So I just
That's
said, "Well,
about
look,
getting
the last time I
complimented.
was on." Well, I said the last time I was on, guys, you called me. The funniest one was when they called me when they had busted two more British guys that joined ISIS, and I was in a Target parking lot in Florida, right? If you remember, I lived there for 3 years.
Yeah.
So I'm in a Target parking lot, and I get the phone call on the way in as we're go. Hi, Chris, this is Michael, BBC. We were wondering if you've heard that they've captured more of the Beatles. Now, caveat, my girlfriend at the time only listened on Sirius FM to one particular channel, and it had a like Yellow Submarine and everything else like that, and that's it. So getting that call
The
was the most
Beatles.
surreal thing. And I said, I no, I hadn't. What's happening? And I pulled out my tablet and I looked and said, okay, yeah, yeah, sure. When 15 minutes? Okay, I guess I'll have to do it from the car. Yeah. So we're gonna do it from next car, or whatever. What are you with in the car? So I literally sat in the car with the Beatles music had been playing, only to come in. Well, Chris, as you realize, we have now captured the Beatles, and I had to hold that in and go. And now they're asking me about a dead Russian general. I'm in Ukraine. I go, well, head on platter, babies.
You brought back John. Where's Paul? Ringo, get your drums. Let's play.
Right, right. Well, brother, man, I love you much. Thank you for being out there, being a voice of reason on the press. I am asking our viewers to always subscribe, to make sure to do some good paid subscriptions, both ways, no less if you can. I do journalism here in Ukraine with an attitude problem. Similarly, like you said, I get to see things that most people can't. I love to get the questions from people so I can know what to cover. I make
Yeah.
decisions based on what's covered. I may not make the most popular argument at all times, but I'm going to try to make one that's effectual. And I'm always going to remember those editors who made it very difficult to get the job done, but in the end, the job was better.
Yeah. And look if I'll do a quick plug if I can. We had a documentary on the first 100 days of the Donald Trump administration that played at the Cannes Film Festival out of competition. Very well received.
That's right. That's right.
We're now on the circuits festival circuit in the United States. But for those who subscribe to my Substack for a week on starting on, we're going to celebrate the 4th of July, right? On the 4th of July, beginning for that week, if you're a paid subscriber to my Substack for a week, you'll be able to watch that while it's still out in festivals and we're having premieres around the country. I want to give that as a little added incentive to our subscribers and also to let people know what the Donald Trump administration is really all about. And it's this no, I mean, man, you're going to see it in an hour and 10 minutes, exactly what we've been looking at, what the first 100 days, it's called the first 100. And it'll show you exactly why we are where we are today. And it portends some very strange occurrences that could have occur in the future. And unfortunately, a lot of people that we spoke with about this at the very beginning, the first week or two of the Trump administration, knew exactly where this was headed, and
Right.
people didn't listen.
Well, years ago, when I was a youngling activist into journalist, or a little bit of both, I was on the phone with Colonel Lawrence Wilkerson about Cheney and war crimes, or at least some of the underlings in that. And he said, "Chris, we're just going to have to accept there's no stomach for accountability in D.C. It's just not there, and it breaks our heart." And he spoke in a sense of us because there's a kind
It
of a group of
not
people
only
who want
breaks your
that.
heart, it's breaking our democracy, and
Exactly.
it's
Yeah.
hurting the world. We
Yeah.
are no longer the light and torch that people that on the hill that people wanna follow. In fact, our allies, if as you're watching the G7, they're trying to get Trump to focus on Ukraine, and he's too busy lying about Iran. It's what kind of world do I live in where the Iranians are more trusted in what they give me in news than the president? Who sits there and just does nothing but lie, endlessly lie. And I mean, lying to the point where I can walk up to the reflecting pool and see myself that it's not blue, it's green. And all of his people will lie to you about it, saying
Right.
there is no algae, it's blue. They are absolutely insane. The lack
Yeah.
of well, the lack of knowledge, the lack of facts, the lack of adherence to norms is unheard of. And people will say, "Well, the United States since blah blah blah." Yeah, we've had problems since Nixon, but
Right. Sure.
the fact of the matter is, and Nixon and Reagan made this possible. But this is the problem of the United States. Even the thing on the South Lawn, the UFC fight. People are going, "Oh, that's, horrible." Look, that's part of America, man. I'm not upset about, the look, I played football. I was a goalie for, until my mid-40s in soccer till some guy planted his foot in my ribs and broke 3 of them. He didn't score though, damn it. That's he tried, but he didn't score. I took the rib shot, but god damn it,
There
I
you
kept
go.
scoring. So
That's
I
right.
I don't have any problem with the physical aspects of the UFC or any of that. What I have a problem with was the fact that Donald Trump exploits everything for the benefit of his own pocketbook. He lies about everything. He
Right.
left the United States and the South Lawn looks like an abandoned county fair that still needs to be cleaned up. The He debases everything he puts his hands on. And to debase the White House the way he has and the way he continues to do to me is an anathema to the democratic process and the respect that we have for the Constitution. That's the problem. That continues to be the problem. That will always be the problem as long as Donald Trump is in charge. And until we start doing our job as reporters, here's my rant. Until we start doing our job as reporters and pushing back harder, he will continue to dominate the news with whatever BS he wants because he knows he can get away with it. I don't care. It's Ben Bagdickian who taught me. He said it doesn't matter. Your job, Brian, is to tell, to give facts. He
Hmm.
said it's, he said, never forget that your obligation is to the people. It's not at heart
Hmm.
to those who pay you or to your editor or to your sources or to your friends or to the advancement of your career. It is to the public. And that's the one
Right.
thing that if we don't start doing better, we're going to lose what's left of our democracy. And there isn't much of it that is left, and we'll lose it. And that's frightening to me.
And then, if you don't mind, brother, let me put some reality check from this side of the same night. So the the night that he celebrates his birthday, he gets a phone call, according to the Kremlin,
Yeah.
from Putin. "Oh, my dear friend, how much I love you. I miss you." All the stuff that was on the transcript somewhere. I made that up real quick, but you get the point. But it did happen. They bragged about it publicly while we were getting bombed. In the process of that bombing, for the viewers who might not know me, hi, Chris Sampson here in Kyiv. I know I filmed this. I'm actually on the 24th floor overseeing my balcony, and some viewers in here were live with me in audio form listening to the bombing happening. Now, they bombed the Pechersk Lavra, which is it is the most sacred place here, along with Saint Sophia, 1,000+ years old. So sacred, even Maria Zakharovka of Russian propaganda once said, "Well, here's a place that'll never get bombed because that's holy to us." And well, according to my filming, standing there when it was destroyed, in this one section the other day, that's not true. The other place that they struck was Dovzhenko Center, or Dovzhenko Kino Studio. So it's basically a film studio, and 100,000 pieces of antiquated costumes of films that every Ukrainian saw growing up, all gone. Like MGM was the equivalent, the grand lot of everything ever done from Gone with the Wind onward, just destroyed. While, of
Right.
course, the other breaking news is Donald Trump gets the loving phone call from Putin.
Vlad
And
the Impaler.
there's a tie-in to these things that have happened ever since Trump got in office. That actually the only thing that triggers me the most is if I hear Trump talk to Putin, because then at that point I'm like, here it comes, another slap. So yeah,
Another bomb will drop. If Donald Trump is talking to Vlad the Impaler, you can guarantee that Ukrainians' best interests aren't on the table. And that's you watch what Donald Trump did with Zelensky in the White House when he
yeah,
showed up that one time. That is in the documentary. It's key to understanding exactly how full of shit this administration is. To
right,
sit there and demand that Zelensky says, hey, thank you for something that, and he did. Zelensky was polite, said thank you many times. But JD Vance, who has all the mental acumen of a piece of lint, is sitting there attacking the guy. And both of them are saying, if Donald Trump had been in office when the war started, and Zelensky knows that he was. But it started. If you really want to go after anybody, it started during Obama's administration. That's when the first attacks occurred in 2014. So
right, right,
Zelensky is sitting there going, "Hey, y'all were, yeah, and don't expect me to, while my people are suffering, to cover your lies. You gotta at least. I mean, he's a former
yeah.
comedian, so you gotta appreciate him for that. He knows how to call people on the carpet. That's what the best comedians do.
I referenced him in my interview last night. I had a talk with Richard O'Brien, the creator of Rocky Horror Picture Show, and I said that Zelensky's always welcome on my program, and he also wore fishnets, so it'd be perfect. He's a great dancer, and I said to Richard, I said, there's this obsession with trans garbage in the Kremlin that's disingenuous. We know somewhere in there Lavrov's wearing them, but it's
Hey
it's a
now.
thing. It's a thing to see that Zelensky has the cards. There are now 10 drone deals, including Latvia last week, and everyone counted them out.
Yeah.
Include,
Well,
yeah,
what I like is that you have no cards. I have other cards. You have to sit there, be quiet. And then he
yeah,
goes, dude, if it weren't for us, this would be over. And Zelensky goes, yeah, yeah, I've heard this before for Putin. It'll be over. And he goes, even faster, even faster. That's it. And
yeah.
I'm going, he's still sitting there. And now you're making deals with him because he knows how to use drone warfare. Give me a break.
Even our
Maybe,
bulldogs know how to
yeah.
fight.
Yeah. Hey, that's my pup. We call my dog that looks like that Denny Crane. That's
Right. But it's really, watching what happened in Iran, watching how they keep outsmarting themselves of helping Ukraine. Um, mm, it's a miracle we're going to get anywhere with it. But maybe it's good they're at least incompetent, wild
who,
evil,
which
of course. But
ones?
they in the administration and the Congress and the Supreme Court
Oh, yes,
and
they're all
the State
incompetent.
House.
And
And the State
there
House
is
and CNN and I'm sorry, we got a long list. That's a whole nother show. Who's
there you
involved?
go.
There you go. Oh,
Uh,
awesome.
yeah, I told you I got one with blue eyes. It's
Awesome. Oh, wow. Yeah, yeah. The
but I
people here love America, man. That's the main
well,
thing. They
that's
yeah.
all right. So to that point, I'm in Cannes, and I'm just talking to cabbies and people and filmmakers from around the world, from Romania. I mean, the whole world is there, and
Right.
I couldn't find anybody who hates America. They just don't like our government, and they go, "We love Americans." And there's one guy, a French cabbie, he did a pretty good, Godfather impersonation, and he did a good Southern impersonation. So he's Papa was a pimp. He never cut out for Santino. He's doing
Right,
that,
right, right.
and then he starts talking about, and I just love the way they talk in the South. I mean, these people love Americans, and Americans love people from around the world. It's only when our governments get involved that we lose that perspective, and we are taught to hate someone of a different color, someone of a different religion, someone of a different political mindset. When my kids were little and we were in Washington, D.C., I remember they had friends that one day my 7-year-old son is playing with some friends in the backyard, 2 Catholics, 2 Jews, 2 Muslims, and a Druid, and maybe a Wiccan, and they're all playing in the backyard. They don't give a shit about nothing except having fun. They're kids. And I remember one of the mothers came, and said if they were in their home countries, they would be taught to hate each other. But they're playing in the backyard. And I go, that's the way it should be, man. And our governments interfere all the time. There is too and the people on the extremes fuel this fire, the extremism of MAGA, the extremism of it, left or right. I'll say this, of the 2 extremes, the either one could kill you, but the far right is more likely to be organized in the effort. So
Yeah.
that's
I actually have a moment I'll never forget. I wish I could, unplug my memories and put them in a card for other people. Um, November 2018, Proud Boy gets up in my face at Broward County, and I was offset just where Ari Melber was broadcasting live at the election center. And this guy gets up in my face and asks if I'm Antifa, and I kind of gave him a funny look. I said, "Well, first off, you can step back. Now, what's your question?" "Oh, Antifa. Have you seen those guys?" "I haven't seen any of them." And I'm baiting him. And then I say, "If you're afraid of them, there's a police officer right there so that nothing happens to you." And I'm really trying to push. I have an attitude problem, Brian. I think we've talked about this. And, and, um, and he says, "Well, we're Proud Boys." I said, "I know you're Keith Burwell, that's Jonathan Pearson," and I named all 7. And Dad got, he didn't know what to do with that. And I had by the way, to get really in character, actually, I looked like this that day
Well, the I will tell you the day of the
because I was just trying to
insurrection.
get in touch with my phone. That's all.
The day of the insurrection, I was standing there, and I'm sure you've seen the, pictures of the people trying to climb up the wall.
Absolutely. I got all the video on the hard drive right here on the desk.
And I'm standing there, and I said, "Hey, morons, there are steps on either side. Someone's gonna fall and bust their neck, break their neck." And sure enough, someone fell. Maybe they broke their neck. I don't know, but hit a why there was a shopping cart there, I have no idea. But the guy fell. He's on the ground. 6 of them turn around and start running at me like they're going to kick my butt. Now, I know they've already assaulted other reporters. So I reach out with my Playboy press pass, the big black press pass that has the Playboy bunny on it. I go, wait,
Right.
not like the rest of the press. And the guy walked up and he goes
I remember
he
this.
goes he goes, Playboy?" I go, "Oh, yeah." He goes, "Can you get me into the mansion?" I said, "Sure, anytime you want." He goes, "Okay, nothing to see here, fellas. Let's go." That's how disingenuous
Wow.
those Proud Boys were. All they care about, it's instant gratification. And if they can come to the Playboy, they didn't even give me their card or nothing. They don't know how to get in touch with me, but the idea that they thought they could get into the mansion just made their day, so they went and looted somewhere else. It's amazing to me the lack of thought that these people have, the lack of
Jesus.
intelligence, the lack of any type of understanding of events. What it is I hate, I hate, I hate, and they play into that all the time.
Yeah. And the big grift, like, at that same time, like a day before, Laura Loomer, who I didn't know really much about at the time, November 2018. Laura Loomer, Ali Alexander are standing next to me with a guy named Jacob Engel from Orlando. And Jacob Engel was basically sort of the hatchet guy for, he's a young gay guy with a megaphone with a bunch of Proud Boy guys around him. And to me, there's a whole psychology in that, like wanting to
Is
protect
he
him.
a member of the Proud Boys? Because I gotta
He's a
tell you
member of the
this.
Proud Boys, he's a mouthpiece for him, right?
Yeah.
So, he says within inches of me to basically to Laura Loomer, but again, Ali Alexander, otherwise known as, what did, Samuel Davis Hitler is what, Stephen Colbert called him. Um, so he said to him, "Well, Roger sent us down here to the election center." So it's basically like Brooks Brothers 2.0, right? My Miami Herald and others all asked Roger Stone, did you have anything to do with this? And Roger Stone lives in Fort Lauderdale. I actually handshaked him, and the guy asked if I got a tetanus shot at the Riverside Hotel where he likes to drink. And I know he did so, and he told all of them no. And basically, Roger, and if you say so, I'll see you, guy. Um, all of them printed that Daily Beast. Like I don't know if it was Will Sommer, one of the guys there who covers it, but all of them said Roger Stone denied it. And I was like, I don't give a shit who you said denied it. His guy on the ground stood right in front of me and said, Roger told me to bring out the three percenters, the Q guys, Andrew, whatever his name is, the right wing dad from Parkland, all of it. He explained all of it to the two other people that were the grifters of the day and the grifters of today. Laura
Well, the
Loomer,
grifters
especially.
are yeah, well, Laura Loomer. I mean, I how do you even address that? I mean, best not to speak about her because, unless you can say something nice about someone, don't mention them at all. I'll never mention her. That's
I have to disagree with you only for one reason. And Brian, tell me if this doesn't explain something. And let's drop it on this because I know you got to go. You got to get your product out today. The number one article I have is the one that I probably emotionally worked the least on. Was the day the judge decided that Laura was full of it, her case was moved, and basically handed her a decisive defeat. Now, normally I would just read it and go, okay, haha, okay. And then I was reading it, and it's how he did it that he went through line by line. So I sit there over coffee, said, "No, man, this is great material. Hold on," and I just kept working with it. And finally, I just posted it. I was done in about 2 hours maximum. Now, journalism takes a long time. My Poland and Ukraine article took me weeks, and I went live going, folks, I don't know how to publish this right now because the sensitivities of okay, see you tomorrow. And I didn't publish it for weeks. And then finally this one, it took me 2 hours, publish it. It's the number one post, brought in a lot of subscribers. And
well, yeah, I mean, come on. When they tee it up for you like that, what are you supposed to do?
Brian, don't
Yeah, that yeah, you just put it right there. I mean, that's the same when they
that's
talk
what should
about
have Tulsi Gabbard, right.
yeah, when they're talking about the people who have replaced, Caroline Levitt while she's been on paid, maternity leave, which
Has she?
millions
I
of
I
Americans
didn't
didn't
notice.
get.
I'm getting bombed, but
Yeah, well, so I'm seeing there's 4 people. Brian, what do you have to say about the 4 people that have replaced her? I go, "Oh god, this is easy." I
right,
mean,
right.
tee it up, let's go. More on number 1, 2, 3, and 4. And, from, the, Uber driver for the Donald Trump administration, he has more hats than he's a one-man band, and that would
Right,
be
right, right.
Secretary of State Marco Rubio. JD, I would love to be Donald Trump Vance. Then you have Scott Pelley, who you mentioned earlier, Richard O'Brien from, Rocky Horror
He's
Picture Show.
he's Brad.
Yes, he is. Every time I see him, I just keep thinking he's seconds away from saying, "Hey, fellas, anybody here do the Madison?" I mean, he's so earnest. He's just in his bullshit. And then the fourth one that they brought out, Dr. Oz, the doctor who claims that Donald Trump's going to live it. None of them are even as except for Rubio. He was the only one that was professional. He was the only one who didn't demean the press. He was the only
Mhm.
one who didn't demean the Democrats. Everyone
Yeah,
else blamed Joe Biden for everything, told us that the press was horrible and that
mhm,
Donald Trump was great. And so just they're going, "What do you want to do with that?" I go, "Just all I have to do is publish what it is that they've said." 'Cause
right.
it's right there in black and white how damn stupid they are and how much they lied. It was Marco Rubio, for example, who said about the Iranian war, and this is on May 5th, said, "It's
Right.
over. It's over." And he says, "And all we want from this is to get back to the way it was before." And I'm going, "Well, it was the way it was before when it was the way it was before you started the war for no reason that no one still understands. You don't want Iran to have a nuclear weapon. Well, they didn't have one, and then you broke the agreement that and ensured international
Mm,
inspections. You want, no blockade in the Strait of Hormuz. Well, that's the way it was before you started the war. So basically, you're telling me the war was a mistake. They get out there, and it's what they say themselves that will hoist them by their own petard if you just listen. because they are not good at lying. All they're really good at is being in your face and telling you it's Obama's fault or Biden. Now Biden's responsible for everything that's gone on in the last year and a half. I'm going, this guy is a master of disguise. Oh my God. Joe Biden is like, whoa.
Right, right.
Lex Luthor wasn't as good as this. Give me a break. That's all of it's BS. But if you hold them accountable with what they say, they squirm out of it and blame the Democrats. You just have to use their words against them because they lie constantly.
The Bill Pulte thing the other day, what are your thoughts about how that flipped around and we had suddenly a different nominee, Congress did
Well,
wouldn't pass
there are those
lies, etcetera.
there are those who believe that was a put up job, that he was, that was a stratagem to put Pulte up there. It wasn't. It was
Weather
Donald Trump
balloon?
just that it was a stratagem to lie about it, that they really
Right,
wanted
right.
clean the entire time. Oh, horseshit. Donald Trump is not capable of such advanced thought. Even Marjorie Taylor Greene said there is no fourth level chess game with this guy. There's
Mm.
no grand plan. This is someone who kissed his ass for 8 years. Listen to her. She's telling you the truth. There is no stratagem. Donald Trump skitters by on the seat of his pants, greased by the crap that he spews out of his ass, and just tries to skid from one episode in his life to the next. It is a reality show. That's all Donald Trump is about, how to satisfy himself in the moment, which is all that the UFC event was at the White House. That's all it was. It was something to satisfy Donald Trump's ego in the moment. It was exploitive. It was horrible. I watched it and I go, "Is he having a stroke?" And then I said, "Well, wait a minute. Am I having a stroke?" This is so delusional as to be unreal. It's it's
And
it's
I thought back to like '87 with Reagan, how the coddling
well,
changed.
there you go again. Yeah.
Well,
Oh,
Nancy and I were doing cocaine
it's
and
you gotta get, if you're gonna do Reagan, it's you just gotta do the head.
yeah,
That's
right, right.
that that happened to me when I don't know if I ever told you that story. When I first met him, I had gone up into the White House to the upstairs in the press offices that I can't go to anymore because Donald Trump has closed those off to the press.
Right.
But I was upstairs in upper press with Sam Donaldson and Helen Thomas. Helen is beating on the door and she's going, "Larry Speaks, you get your ass out here and you talk to me right now." Now, they used to bring her coffee and donuts every morning. That's how demonstrative she
Mm.
was in that. I mean, she was
Yeah.
out there. So here comes the Secret Service. They come through and go, "The president's going to come speak to Larry. You all have to leave." So we all turn to leave. Sam and Helen go down the hallway. I'm 25 years old. I tripped and fell forward, and I'm on my knees, and I feel this hand on my shoulder. And I thought, fuck, my first day in the White House, and the Secret Service is throwing me out. And I turned around, and it was Ronald Reagan. And he looked at me and he said, "Well, young fella, you don't have to bow in front of me." And that's how I met Ronald Reagan.
Well, that's as we would say, the book, which is in my Bible book, a
God
Bible
bless you.
book. It really is. Thank you for being one of those guys along the way, that help, guys like me who want to not be a street journalist hustler guy. Again, those guys have something to teach us somehow about getting views, but um, what it takes to call truth to power. I used a bit of that here to allow, for instance, POW moms. I would hand the phone to them to give them a chance to ask the question. Um, and it was good. It actually served some people. And here, in Ukraine, we need good press to pay attention from abroad, and domestically, we need you guys to pay attention to what's happening
You aren't shitting, brother. You aren't.
in the
You said a
empire.
mouthful there,
It's a shit show. Big love to you, my man. See you soon.
Chris. Anytime you want, brother. I'm always there for you. I appreciate it. It's a good time.
Tomorrow we will have Marcus Aid on to talk about the anomalous health. Is it anomalous health syndrome? What are we calling
Anomalous
it?
health incidents, AHI.
Incidents. That's right. Incidents. Um, and the GRU 29155, which I suspect to be highly involved. And then, of course, this weekend we will have a very special segment. Oh, Friday we have Sean Penner, of course. Sorry to pass Friday too quickly with our weekly report from Ukraine. And this weekend we will have the great Richard O'Brien, who created Rocky Horror Picture Show. And what a conversation that was. We'll see you soon. You'll have to tune in to find out what that looks like. But it's a rather special night you arrived on, and it'll be very interesting. So, see you soon. Слава Україні, героям слава і пиздець Російській Федерації.